It all begins with darkness, a peaceful, velvety blackness like the quiet before Christmas morning. But some silences are just the universe holding its breath before chaos. Suddenly, a crash shatters the calm, ornaments explode, dreams break, and my perfect Christmas vision crumbles. December 24th, the worst day of my life. My holiday cheer never stood a chance. The camera then performs a whip-fast zoom, hurtling through the darkness until it finds its target. And there he is, the architect of my destruction. The furry little monster at the heart of this Christmas catastrophe. You see a pair of eyes first, glowing with what can only be described as pure, unfiltered evil. They are wide, pupils dilated, reflecting the glittering carnage of the room around him. These are not the cute, sleepy eyes of a normal house cat. No, these are the eyes of a tiny, fluffy warlord who has just surveyed his conquered kingdom and found it to be very, very good. This is the face of a creature who knows exactly what he has done. He's a gray tabby. He looks innocent enough, I suppose. He has the classic stripes, the delicate white paws, and the kind of soft fur that just begs you to cuddle it. But don't let that fool you. This is camouflage. It's a brilliant disguise designed to lure you into a false sense of security before he systematically dismantles your life, one piece of furniture at a time. He's sitting there, perfectly still amidst the wreckage, a silent, fluffy statue of defiance. He's not scared. He's not sorry. He's proud. He is a masterpiece of adorable, destructive power, a tiny package of mayhem wrapped in a deceptively cute exterior. His name is Mittens. Just kidding. A creature this magnificent, this committed to anarchy, deserves a title befitting his legacy. I call him Lord Chaos. And on this particular Christmas Eve, he had more than earned his title. He wasn't just a cat who knocked over a plant. He was a force of nature, a tiny, purring hurricane that had just made landfall directly in my living room. He looked back at the camera, not with guilt, but with a look that seemed to say, "And I do it again." He was the villain of this story, the Grinch, and my furry roommate all rolled into one. As the image of his menacingly cute face freezes on screen, you can feel the weight of the disaster that has just occurred. This wasn't an accident. This was a statement. This was a declaration of war on festive cheer, a one-cat crusade against peace, joy, and expensive decorations. This was the opening salvo in the battle for Christmas, and Lord Chaos had just scored a decisive, devastating first victory. The worst part, I had a sinking feeling that he was just getting started. The night was young, and his capacity for destruction, I was about to learn, was limitless. Meet Lord Chaos, the furry mastermind behind the Christmas catastrophe of 2024. He's a small gray tabby with the soul of a Viking warlord and a PhD in property damage. From shredding sofas to soaking passports, every day is a new adventure in damage control. He doesn't just live here, he rules. My sanity is his canvas. You'd think, after years of chaos, I'd have learned my lesson. But this year, hope got the better of me. I dreamed of the perfect Christmas, twinkling lights, presents, peace on earth. I believed even Lord Chaos, my cat, might be tamed by holiday magic. But perfection? That was my biggest mistake. The tragedy was about to begin. My quest for the perfect Christmas began with the tree, the undisputed heavyweight champion of evergreens. I found a 4-meter-tall Nordmann fir, a true evergreen titan. Getting it inside was a comedy of errors, but worth it. Its tip brushed the ceiling, filling the room with pine scent and awe. 1,800 euros for a tree, my masterpiece's foundation. Now the real magic could begin. Decorating the tree was a sacred ritual. I began with 3,000 warm white lights, weaving them from the bottom up until the room glowed with magic. Each ornament, from delicate glass to vintage heirlooms, was placed with care and purpose. My grandmother's treasures brought memories to life. The finished tree shimmered, a masterpiece of light, color, and memory. It was perfect. As I admired my work, I realized I wasn't alone. Lord Chaos, from his perch on the sofa, watched every move, silent, still, eyes gleaming with intent. I felt his gaze as I wove the lights, his focus sharpening with each ornament. His tail twitched, a signal of excitement, a predator's anticipation. My perfect tree was complete, and its future destroyer was watching, waiting, and purring with sinister intent. With the tree standing tall, it was time for the next crucial element of my perfect Christmas, the food. This year, I set my sights on a Michelin-starred bûche de Noël, no ordinary Yule log, but a true masterpiece. It arrived in a pristine white box, tied with a red ribbon, anticipation building as I opened it. Inside was a flawless creation, chocolate, cream, and artistry, almost too perfect to eat. This cake was the grand finale, the crowning jewel of my holiday table. With my dream dessert on the counter, I prepared to move it to the fridge. But my phone buzzed, a call from Mom. I turned my back for just 3 seconds. In that instant, a flash of gray fur streaked by. Lord Chaos, airborne, aimed straight for my masterpiece. My perfect Christmas was about to meet a 12-pound agent of chaos. The impact was a thing of terrible beauty. Lord Chaos didn't just land on the cake, he face-planted into it with the unbridled enthusiasm of a child diving into a ball pit. The scene shifted into epic slow motion, capturing every devastating detail of the collision. There was a soft, percussive thump as his face met the rich chocolate ganache, followed by a glorious, almost silent explosion of white cream. The delicate vanilla filling, once safely nestled inside the sponge, erupted outwards in a spectacular plume-like cloud. It was a creamy firework display, a geyser of dairy and sugar that coated everything in its blast radius. Droplets of cream and crumbs of chocolate cake flew through the air like shrapnel in a war movie. The beautiful meringue mushrooms were obliterated, shattering into a fine, sugary dust. The sponge sugar holly leaf, once so delicate and perfect, was instantly vaporized in the creamy cataclysm. Lord Chaos himself was at the epicenter of this dessert demolition, his entire head and upper body disappearing into the soft, yielding structure of the cake. For a split second, all I could see was his tail, twitching with what I can only assume was pure, unadulterated joy. He had not just attacked the cake, he had become one with it. He emerged from the wreckage a changed cat. He was no longer a gray tabby. He was a horrifying abstract sculpture of chocolate and cream. He looked like a tiny ghost who had just run headfirst through a dessert buffet. His whiskers were caked in ganache, his ears were dripping with vanilla filling, and he had a dollop of cream perched precariously on the tip of his nose. He shook his head, sending a second wave of sugary spray across the kitchen cabinets and floor. Then he looked at me, his eyes blinking slowly, and proceeded to calmly lick the evidence from his paws with a connoisseur's satisfaction. I just stood there, speechless, phone still in hand. The camera zooms in on my face, a mask of utter disbelief and theatrical despair. A single fake tear rolls down my cheek as I survey the carnage. The perfect, elegant bûche de Noël was now a cratered, cream-splattered mess. My €250 culinary dream had been reduced to a pile of delicious-smelling rubble, and the perpetrator was now meticulously cleaning himself, not with guilt, but with the smug satisfaction of a job well done. My perfect Christmas had just taken its first major hit, and the weapon of choice was a Michelin-star Yule log. After the great Yule log massacre, a fragile truce settled over the household. I seized the moment to assemble a mountain of gifts beneath the glowing tree, a treasure trove of love, generosity, and honestly, a big chunk of my annual salary. There was the Holy Grail, a PlayStation 5, and the latest iPhone, nestled among sparkling jewelry boxes. €5,000 in gifts, a vision of holiday abundance. I saw the joy on their faces, the foundation of future happy memories. I left behind a silent, glittering monument to my holiday spirit. What could possibly go wrong? I was gone for no more than 5 minutes. 5 minutes. The time it takes to pour a festive beverage and briefly contemplate whether adding more nutmeg is a good idea. As I stood in the kitchen, I was struck by the silence. It wasn't the peaceful silence from before. This was a different kind of quiet, an unnervingly productive quiet. It was the sound of a small, furry creature engaged in focused, methodical work. The kind of silence that is always, without fail, followed by a loud, expensive noise or a soul-crushing discovery. My pet owner's sixth sense, already on high alert from the cake incident, began screaming at me again. I walked back towards the living room, my heart beginning to beat a little faster. As I got closer, the silence was broken by a new sound. It was a faint, rhythmic, tearing noise. Rip, rip, rip. It was the unmistakable sound of paper being enthusiastically shredded by tiny, razor-sharp claws. It was a sound I knew all too well, a sound that usually accompanied the destruction of important mail or a brand new roll of toilet paper. A cold dread began to creep up my spine. My pace quickened, my glass of eggnog sloshing precariously over the rim as I rounded the corner into the living room. The scene that greeted me was one of utter devastation. My beautiful, pristine mountain of gifts was gone. In its place was a war zone of shredded paper and mangled ribbons. It looked like a ticker tape parade had exploded in my living room. Red, green, and gold paper lay in heaps, torn into a million tiny pieces. The perfect bows I had spent hours tying were now sad, unraveled tangles of fabric scattered amongst the debris. The elegant jewelry boxes were overturned, their contents thankfully still inside, but their velvet exteriors now bore the unmistakable signature of claw marks. This wasn't just unwrapping. This was a frenzied, joyous deconstruction. It was a blizzard of festive destruction. The air was still thick with floating scraps of paper, glittering like malevolent confetti in the light of the Christmas tree. My €5,000 monument to generosity had been ransacked by a tiny, purring barbarian. The PlayStation box was gashed open, the iPhone box was torn to shreds, and every single meticulously wrapped gift had been violated. The sheer scale of the carnage was hard to process. It was as if Lord Chaos had seen my perfect arrangement and taken it as a personal insult, a challenge to his very nature, and had responded with overwhelming, decisive force. I scanned the wreckage, my eyes searching for the architect of this paper apocalypse. Where was the furry little demon? Was he hiding, ashamed of his destructive rampage? Had he fled the scene of the crime? Of course not. That would imply the existence of a conscience. Instead, my eyes landed on the largest casualty of the attack, the now decimated box that had once housed the iPhone 16 Pro Max. It was torn open, its clean white cardboard ripped into a jagged, unrecognizable shape. And there, nestled comfortably inside the ruins of the box, was Lord Chaos himself. He was fast asleep. He was curled into a perfect, fluffy ball, his little head resting on a pile of shredded instruction manuals. He looked so peaceful, so utterly innocent. He was purring. The sound was a low, contented rumble that vibrated through the cardboard wreckage, a soothing soundtrack to the surrounding chaos. He looked like a tiny dragon who, after vanquishing a village and looting its treasure, had settled down for a long, satisfying nap atop his hoard. There was not a shred of guilt on his furry face, only the profound peace of a creature who has successfully fulfilled his life's purpose, to create mayhem and then sleep soundly within it. He had a single stubborn piece of shiny red wrapping paper stuck to his forehead like a bizarre, festive battle scar. He let out a tiny sigh in his sleep, a little puff of air that sent a few nearby paper scraps fluttering. It was infuriating. It was maddening. And I have to admit, it was also ridiculously cute. How can you stay angry at a creature that looks so angelic, even when he's literally sleeping in the evidence of his crimes? It's a form of psychological warfare, and cats are the undisputed masters of it. He had destroyed thousands of euros worth of gifts, and then used the wreckage as a luxury bed. I just stood there, staring at the sleeping criminal. The eggnog in my hand felt mockingly festive. My perfect Christmas morning, the one with the joyous unwrapping of pristine gifts, was now an impossibility. Instead, I would have a morning of presenting loved ones with mauled boxes and explaining that the wrapping paper had been sacrificed to a tiny, sleeping god of chaos. This was a new low. The cake was one thing, but this was a direct assault on the very tradition of gift-giving. Lord Chaos had escalated the war, and as he slept and purred in his cardboard fortress, I had the sinking feeling that he was only just getting warmed up. After the paper-pocalypse, my quest for perfection was over. I leaned into the cozy chaos, fire crackling, catnapping in the ruins of an iPhone box. The fire's warm glow made the mess almost artistic. For a moment, peace. But Lord Chaos awoke, eyes fixed on the flames. He was about to boldly go where no cat should ever go. There was a moment of profound stillness. Lord Chaos sat before the fireplace, noble and majestic. Then, with impossible speed, he vanished, gone in a puff like a magic trick. A frantic scratching echoed from the chimney. My heart sank. He was climbing up, not around. Suddenly, a soot-blackened creature tumbled out. No longer a gray tabby, but a monster from the Black Lagoon. He blinked, sneezed a jet of black dust, and chaos reigned. My soot-covered cat glanced at his blackened paws, then at my face, and bolted. He streaked across the living room, leaving a trail of black paw prints on my once pristine rug and a greasy smear across the white sofa. Not satisfied, he attempted to scale the wall, leaving frantic, abstract paw prints on my expensive paint. He finally stopped, surveying his masterpiece of chaos with unmistakable pride. I stood frozen, watching my dream of a perfect Christmas dissolve into a soot-stained disaster. Silence fell, broken only by the twinkle of the untouched Christmas tree. My cat, Lord Chaos, locked eyes with the tree, his final conquest. With deliberate intent, he began his ascent, leaving black smudges on every branch and ornament. I watched, paralyzed as he climbed higher, each step a countdown to catastrophe. He reached the top, eyes fixed on the golden star. I knew, with sinking certainty, that disaster was inevitable. He climbed past the point of no return, the tree swaying dangerously under his weight. Pausing near the top, he surveyed his kingdom of chaos, letting out a triumphant meow. A glass bauble fell and shattered, a prelude to the coming disaster. He perched beside the star, the tree now leaning at a terrifying angle. He looked straight at me as if to say, "Watch this." And then he jumped. The tree groaned and crashed down in a spectacular explosion of pine needles, broken ornaments, and tangled lights. The room plunged into darkness, glitter and soot swirling in the air. Silence settled over the wreckage. Chaos had won. I sank to the floor, whispering to the ruins, "Merry Christmas." I sat in the debris, exhaustion replacing anger. Lord Chaos emerged from the shadows, no longer wild, but gentle. He picked his way through the mess and curled up in my lap, a soot-stained ball of comfort. Despite everything, he sought solace with me. I stroked his fur, feeling the absurdity and love tangled together. In the ruins, all that remained was this quiet, unexpected peace. My first instinct was to push him away, but I didn't. His purr rumbled, a soft apology, or maybe just a reminder, I'm here. As I stroked his back, the chaos faded, replaced by a deep, complicated love. He destroyed everything, but he was still my best friend. The camera lingers on the wreckage, then on us, ruined Christmas, unbroken bond. He didn't care about gifts or trees. He just knew this was home, and I was his person. Maybe in this mess, I found a different kind of perfect. Christmas morning revealed the true cost of chaos. With a heavy heart and coffee, I tallied the damages. The tree, the cake, the gifts, the cleaning, the repainting. Nearly 10,000 euros, gone in a whirlwind of fur and festive ambition. My perfect Christmas, bankrupt. But then, under the fallen tree, I spotted a single untouched present, a tiny island of order in the chaos. For the first time that day, my curiosity was piqued. I crawled over the trunk and found a small, mysterious box. It felt light in my hands. Inside was a deep red collar engraved, "World's Best Cat." I'd bought it for Lord Chaos, my mischievous cat. All my frustration melted away as I laughed. He blinked at me, a cat's kiss, pure love. In the chaos I found what matters most, love.